going to be a review for the first side, more or less. Make sure we know how to do this. So, of course, the first step is to get each to a 1 or 2 step equation. Start by the variable on the right. So if that's positive, so let's subtract. If you already know how to do this, you can just start solving them. That's fine. A little rusty from over the weekend, and follow ahead. Copy everything down. So since this is a positive 3p, subtract 3p. And we get negative 1. All of this is what did not change. The only thing that changes is 5p minus 3p. Remember, our goal is to have just one variable on the left. That's why our first step was to get rid of the variable on the right, because we know our ending point is one variable on the left. We have that. Let's see, do the adding subtracting on the side of the variable. So, again, if you know how to do this already, just go ahead. If it seems pretty easy at this point, focus on your format. Focus on your neatness. And lastly, 2 times 1 equals 8. Divide both sides by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is. Now, do remember that this part right here is called algebra. So you want to have this on every problem, where you show what you're doing to both sides. That's a requirement, right? That's what algebra is. So counting up for your quiz on Wednesday is going to be probably 2 points, because there's 2 steps here, 2 points here, and 2 points here, and then 1 point here. So if you have all the algebra, right, but you maybe get the wrong answer, you still get 6 out of 7 correct. If you don't show any algebra and you get the right answer, you might have 1 or 2 out of 7. Not that good. 2 here. 1 here. Yeah. I just draw it down. 2, you just copy it down. Because the step before we just added, so since I didn't change it, just copy it down. Whatever this number is, that's what you divide by. So 8 divided by 8. Yeah, these numbers always match. Those 2 and this one are always the same. Whatever you divide, so I have to be the same. Alright? So just so you know how it's going to be graded. I don't want people that's I don't think there's too many anymore, but I'm always skeptical just to make sure. But everybody's pretty much showing their work and grading everything else. Let's keep doing that. Alright. Then after that, we went down here and we saw that on maybe one side or both sides, something wasn't simplified. So that became the first step. And this was last week. So you want to simplify it. Before you add 1 or subtract 4, the first thing you want to do is actually just 4 minus 1. Right? And then everything else stays the same. We're just combining the terms on the same side first. And it turns into a 1 or 2 step equation, right? That will change. Variable is now on the right, so I'm going to focus on here. It's a positive 3, so subtract 3. And show the algebra both sides. Bring down whatever you didn't change. So this negative 7x did not change. This is 0, so we don't write 0. If you notice, I kind of leave a blank. I keep things vertically aligned. Some people like to squeeze everything towards the equal sign. I just drop it straight down so it's easier to follow. Where did that come from? That other thing. It's easier to see. Well, how come there's nothing here? Well, if you look right above, oh, it's 0. Negative divided by negative is positive. And lastly, here we have variables on both sides that need to be simplified. So do not subtract 8 or 3 or 7. The first thing you do is just bring them together. 5p and 7p. Well, 3 and 8 makes 11. So in one step, this problem becomes much smaller. And whatever, there's different ways of solving it, but I'm sticking with the same format. Whatever variable's on the right, do the opposite. This is a positive 11 feet, so subtract it. And make sure you do write the variable on both of them. Some people I see write 11 feet here and then just write 11 here, but it does make a difference. Two different things. So when everything cancels out on one side, that means it's 0. 11 minus 11 is 0. And we have 12 minus 11, which is 1 feet. And then we have plus 3, we have change something right now. And then lastly, we just have a little one-step equation. There's 0 minus 3 makes. Okay, so lastly, on none of these does it say check. However, the number one question we get as math teachers is, how can I raise my grade? And the blunt answer is, well, why don't you get the problems right? And sometimes they think, well, that's me. Oh, yeah, if I get the problems right, I would, but I can't. That's why I need to raise my grade. And you got this circular logic. No, really, get the problems right. You have a way of getting them right. That's called checking your answer. The number way to raise your grade, if you don't like it, to get it up, is make sure your answer is right. So you can just plug it in, right, and say 1, on number 1, it's, let's see here, let me just do it first step. So 5 times 4 is 20. Just plugging in my answer into the variable. 3 times 4 is 12. And then plus 7. If you get the same number on both sides, 20 minus 1 is 19. 12 plus 7 is 19. You have the right answer. So really the best way to get your grade up is get the right answer. And if it's not right, you go back and redo it until it is right. And that's it. So sometimes you might think if you think you're not good at math and other people are good at math because they get the right answer more often than you and all this other stuff, so they just get it and you just don't because it's hard for you. You saw how fast this was. To find out if you had the right answer, you had to do 20 minus 1 and 12 plus 7. That's the difference that's between you checking your answer and making sure it's right and not checking your answer and maybe you're not going to do well on your quiz. So sometimes difficult things come down to a simple answer. Are you willing to do 20 minus 1 and 12 plus 7 to get the right answer, or do you tell yourself, this is too much work, I don't want to do it, unless it says in the directions. Unless you're going to grade it, I'm not going to do it. So if you're one of those that says, I don't write anything extra, do anything extra, unless I'm told to, maybe that's what's holding you back. Because this is minimal work, and then you'll know before you turn in your quiz or your test what the grade is. You can put the grade at the top if you do this on every single problem. And you'll know if it's wrong, and you could fix it. Oh, I missed a negative. Should have been a -4. Okay, now it checks out, and you move on. And you don't miss any of those points. So I'm not going to tell you any further to check your answer, but if you want to get a higher grade, that's what you do without being told, and then you get higher grades. There is no extra credit. All you can do is make sure you check your answers and make sure it's right. All right. Even for these longer ones, you can do it mentally. Right, so it's 3 minus 15 minus 21. So I just multiplied each of these by -3. Does that equal -9 minus 24? And you can just plug it in and see if it works or not. Right? And chances are it does. And if not, don't erase it and start over. Just find the little error and you can, fix it. And chances are it's 99% correct. You just missed one little thing. So never start all over. Just find the little mistake. Okay? And that will be the easiest way. So go ahead and finish the right-hand side. Again, it's all review. Just finish the right-hand side, and then we'll start up on the newer stuff. Okay? So for this week, you're going to end up solving equations that have these parentheses. All right? And it could look like this. And equals 2a minus 4b. So this is where we're heading. So we're just going to worry about simplifying all this stuff that's new, and it's eventually just going to turn into a problem like number 1 or number 3 that we already know how to solve. So in math, it's usually a good idea, once you know how to solve something really good, you want to get all the other problems to turn into something you already know to solve. So once we get this point, after that, it's just all review. So let's just talk about how to do that today and tomorrow. Then on Wednesday, we'll actually start solving equations. So today, as you can see, we're just starting off with, how would you just simplify this one little part, which is right here. And just parentheses mean multiplication. We usually do like -3 times -4. We know that means -3 times -4. There's just more stuff in the parentheses, so you just multiply everything by -3. So -3 times A, and -3 times -3 is positive 9. And if there's a mistake, it's probably the two negatives make a positive, or a positive and negative make a negative, so just keep those in the back of your mind. But this is in the most simplest form, what you're going to be doing. -5 times -5? Yep. Positive 5, right? And we're going to work towards, having two parentheses towards the end of this assignment. So flip it on over. Now, the most common mistake is actually on number 13, and it can be avoided with one simple question. If you can identify what number's in front of the parentheses, you'll probably get it right. So, on number 13, what number is in front of the parentheses? -4. -4. If you said -4, that's the common mistake, because you have to do negative times negative and get positive. But if you do 4 times -5, you get -20A instead. So if you can remember that much, that will probably eliminate about 90% of mistakes. And you'll see, just like we have been doing, there's a part that we didn't even use. So you just bring that down. And anything that can be simplified, we did a Khan Academy last week on this. 20 minus 6 is 14. So you want to get it down to 2 terms. Now, what this is going to amount to is, back on the front, it's going to end up being just one side of an equation that's simplified. Then you can start adding, subtracting to both sides. So that's what we're trying to work on, is get all that stuff simplified to just a number and a variable, so we can go through and just do the review parts and solve it. Okay. Just a few more down here. On number 19. So what number is in front of the parentheses? -10. -10. Not 10, but -10. So we got -10 times 50, times 5, -50. And -10 times -8, positive. Bring down to -6. And then you can see how there's 2 numbers. So those will be combined. The -50x stays the same because that's the only variable. No, that's going to be the first part of the answer. And then 80 minus 6 is 74.
Okay.
After that, it's just doing like 2 problems together at the same time. So like 21 has 2 parentheses, so you just repeat steps twice. Questions? Oh man. Hey. So let's just do 21. So -3 times 7 is -21x. -3 times 10 is -30. Right, so that's the first half. And we have -4 times 5 is -20x. And -4 times 9 is -36. And now we have 2 variables and 2 numbers, so of course the 2 variables you can add and subtract together. And then 2 numbers you can add and subtract together. And if you're not sure about the positive negative, just use a calculator just to make sure. I don't want you doing all the algebra correct, and then you just mess up on -21 minus 20. So no reason to miss any algebra problem because of arithmetic. You can always check. -41x and -30 minus 36 is -66. Now, there is a convention here that since we have a variable and a number pretty much in all of these, put the variable part first, and then the number part second. Just in general, that way we all write them the same way, and it's easier to compare answers and stuff like that. However, if you did put -66 minus 41x, it's not wrong, but it's just more common to write it this way. When we get this answer, just rewrite it if you could. And that's all it is. If you finish this quickly today, you can start the Khan Academy. It's already been assigned, which is exactly this. Just you have to get 10 in a row. So when you get the Khan Academy, here's what I see some people do: is they finish this, they do really good on the paper, and then where they're showing all their work, and then the Khan Academy comes and they stare at it. They get the Khan Academy, and then they start doing it in their head, and they have to start again and start again and start again. So once you have the Khan Academy and you know how to do it right because you're showing all your work, keep doing that. Have the scratch paper out, grab the little whiteboard markers and erasers and stuff like that, and write it out, show the work, so you only have to do 10 problems and you're done. Otherwise, you could do 8 and start all over because you missed one. And then it turns into a minimum of 18 now. If you miss one on that, start all over. Now you're doing 28 problems. If you just show your work on every problem and get it right the first time, you're done. So I'm really trying to instill in you that accuracy is more important than speed. No one's impressed by you just staring at it and getting it right a lot of the times, but then you get it wrong too. It's more impressive if you just get 10 in a row correct, no matter how you do it. You just get it right. You know, someone that gets it right all the time because they're taking their time and showing their work, more impressive than the math wizard supposedly that stares at it, gets it right sometimes and misses all the other times. Okay? And that's it. So when you're when you're done, show it to me. I'm going to check the back, every single problem, make sure they're correct, and then you can start on Khan Academy tonight if you want to, or you can just finish it tomorrow.